Last week, Apple held their annual Worldwide Developers Conference, and if you're anything like me, you've at this point already watched the keynote, the State of the Union, as well as a bunch of other YouTube videos talking about all the new features that Apple is releasing this fall for all their major OSs. Now, as a software developer myself, I have a bunch of thoughts on all the announcements and the new features and APIs that Apple has in store for us. But as a consumer and user of Apple products, I also have thoughts on what these features are going to do for me personally and how I'm going to be able to use them to help myself be more productive. And I thought I'd share that with you today. Hey there, I'm Kelly. I'm a father of 6, a full-time software developer at Rescue Time, and Dean of Digital Campus at Signum University. On this channel, I like to talk about tips and tricks to help you be more productive, and as I mentioned today, we are going to be talking about the things that Apple has in store for us that will help us be more productive in the year to come. To begin with, I want to start with a pair of app changes that I am most excited for, and those are Apple's messaging-related apps, Messages as well as Apple Mail. Both of these applications are getting changes to help them be more productive and more in line with more modern forms of emailing and messaging. Starting with Messages, we are finally getting the ability to edit and unsend messages that you have already sent. I know for me personally, I'm oftentimes sending a message quickly on my phone. I send something with a typo, and sure, I can do the whole asterisk, I meant this type annotation, but I really hate that. It will be much more convenient to just go back within a 15-minute time period, I think, tap on a message and edit it to say what I really meant to say, or delete it and try again. Finally, in iOS 16, we are getting the ability to mark a message as unread, meaning that, say, when I get a message back from my editor that the YouTube video is done and I need to go check it out, I can read that message, but I can mark it as unread to remind me to get back and do that later in the day. As far as Apple Mail, we are getting many of the same features there. We are getting the ability to unsend a message after you have sent it within a certain time period. Now in macOS Ventura, I'll be actually able to schedule a message to be sent at a later date. In addition, Apple Mail is getting follow-up and remind me suggestions, which means that, say, I send an email and I don't get a response back, Apple Mail will bubble that up, reminding me that I need to follow up with that person to get a response from them. There's also going to be a built-in remind me feature. So say I get an email in, and instead of just letting it hang out in the inbox forever, I can say remind me about this in about a week or so, and then I'll be able to get back to that at a later point in time, kind of using my email inbox as a to-do inbox. The final really well-needed feature of Apple Mail is that it is getting a complete search overhaul. And for years, the Apple Mail on macOS has had okay search, but the iOS version of Apple Mail has had abysmal search. So hopefully this will bring well-needed improvements to both platforms. Now, as far as other cross-platform features, Apple has announced a bunch of improvements to dictation, which is going to be most beneficial on iOS. There is no longer a built-in time limit to dictation, and it can auto-add punctuation marks and stuff like that, as well as allowing you to use the keyboard at the same time to make changes as you go dictating to the phone. The final major cross-platform feature that I'm really looking forward to is something called passkeys, and it is Apple's vision for a passwordless future. Passkeys are built on a tried and true system of authentication that has been used by developers for decades. But it is a bit cumbersome to use in day-to-day life. Apple, along with others from the FIDO Alliance such as Google and Microsoft, are working together to create a system, a standard that will be easy to use by all modern OSs. Now, it is going to take years for apps and websites and services to fully embrace passkeys, but it is something that I am really excited for and will hopefully make everything more secure in the long run, as well as easier to manage on a day-to-day basis. Switching away from the cross-platform topics, let's talk about the things coming in iOS 16 that I am most excited for. The first of these is Quick Note on the iPhone. Now, we had Quick Note come to iPad last year, and this year we are getting it on the iPhone. A couple of weeks ago, I shared with you how I'm using Apple Notes as my digital inbox for everything that I encounter on my phone, such as through Twitter or all sorts of different places where I want to save stuff to process later. Quick Note will make that process even easier. If you're interested in how I do it now, check out this video here and stay tuned, because as the betas progress, I will be releasing a video on how I am updating my workflow to use the new Quick Note feature. But basically, in a nutshell, Quick Note on iOS 16 gets a little action item button on the notification center, allowing you to quickly take a note wherever you are. It is also bubbled up in the share sheet, so anytime you select, say, a tweet and want to share it, you can quickly add it to Quick Note. You can quickly add it to Quick Note. Sure. Why not? Or say you want to save a text clipping or an image for later, same thing, it can all get added via the Quick Note share sheet. This alone will really simplify my workflow, because all of my inbox notes will be in this one location and not mixed in with all my other Apple Notes. The other iOS 16 feature that I'm really looking forward to are actually a bundle of features, all helping the lock screen be more productive. And I've been lightly using these over the past year or so, and I've really enjoyed them. On iOS 16 though, focus modes can be tied to a different lock screen, meaning you can have a different lock screen for each of your focus modes. Not only that, you can swipe between lock screens like Apple Watch faces on your Apple Watch, and doing so will change your focus mode across all of your devices. There is more coming to lock screen, I'll get to that in a moment, but before that I want to talk about the final really cool thing coming to focus modes, and that is a filtered content. Now in iOS 16, developers can implement these focused filters, allowing them to, well, filter content that they're displaying to you based on your current focus mode. Some examples of ways that Apple has already implemented this are tab groups in Safari. You can now automatically switch to a different tab group depending on which focus mode you're in, or the calendar app, which can automatically switch you between different calendars based on if you're in work or if you're at home. And the same goes for email accounts. And as I said, these APIs are open for developers, and so I hope that many app developers really take advantage of these, because I think this will be an awesome new feature in iOS 16. Now, going back to the lock screen, besides just being able to swipe between different lock screens with different pictures on them, signifying different focus modes, lock screens themselves are getting a whole lot more powerful. Apple has built an awesome customizer for you to be able to change the clock, the font of the clock, color backgrounds, and all sorts of cool effects, making these individual lock screens so much more personalized and appealing. Live activities are basically widgets, which we had on the home screen last year, but they're real-time updating widgets that are always displayed on the lock screen. These won't be coming with the initial iOS 16 release, but Apple did promise they will be coming later next year, and I really look forward to seeing what developers do with them, as well as seeing what I can do with them for rescue time. Now let's switch over and talk about the features coming to the iPad to help us be more productive there. The first is a brand new app called Freeform that Apple is releasing. Freeform is a digital whiteboarding tool which will be useful, meaning I won't have to open Apple Notes and use that as a digital whiteboarding tool when it's really not what it's made for, or use a third-party alternative. But the really cool thing about Freeform is that Apple is pushing this forward as its poster child for the new collaboration features that Apple is bundling in all of the OSs. What this means for Freeform is that you will be able to work with colleagues across the world all in real time, taking notes and doing some digital whiteboarding all together. Next up are a bunch of features that are all interrelated in one way or another. The first of these with iOS 16 this fall is that you will be able to change the pixel density of the iPad screen. This means you'll be able to make all of the content smaller. Okay, yes, that makes it harder to see, but there will be more content on the screen. Additionally, Apple is finally building virtual memory swap into the iPadOS. This means that you will no longer be limited to the hardware RAM on your device. Instead, like macOS has had for years, it will be using that super fast SSD storage as virtual memory. This means that content and apps should be backgrounded far less frequently than they currently are. Going along with these, we are also finally getting full external screen support. We have had for a while now the ability to mirror your iPad screen onto an external monitor, but that was just mirroring. With iOS 16 this fall, you will be able to plug your iPad into an external monitor and use it as a second external monitor, having separate content on each. Now those three features are really great, and I'm looking forward to each one of them on their own. But I'm really curious and tentatively excited for Stage Manager. Stage Manager is Apple's new windowing manager for the iPad. Up until now, we have only been able to have full screen apps or split screen apps, with the minor exception for picture-in-picture for a certain class of apps. With iOS 16, we are getting a completely different windowing system. Sure, we can use everything that we have used so far, but in addition to that, we are getting this new feature allowing us to be able to overlay windows of different apps on top of one another and group them together and quickly switch between them. And this is really where those three prior features come into play. Increasing the pixel density will allow you to see more of these app windows on screen at one time. Adding virtual memory support will hopefully allow these apps to stay in memory at the same time. And when bundled with full external display support, this is finally becoming a really productive OS. Now, I do have some apprehensions with Stage Manager. How it's laid out and built, there is a lot of what seems like wasted screen real estate, but it does show that Apple is still trying to work through the problems of windowing on iPadOS, and I'm excited for what it means for the future. But let's now switch over to macOS Ventura and start with where we just left off. Yes, Stage Manager is not only coming to iPadOS this fall, it's coming to macOS Ventura as well. We already have a decades-old windowing system that works on macOS. Except it doesn't always. You see, those of us who grew up with a computer know how to use the windowing system on modern OSs intuitively. We found systems that work for us and it just works. But there are plenty of people for who it doesn't work. If you're not careful about it, it is easy to get overloaded with Windows and just get stressed out by everything that's going on macOS. Now, even though I'm not sure if SageMeasure has a use in my life as a Mac user, I am excited that it's coming to macOS for two large reasons. First of all, to help these sorts of people who did not grow up using macOS and know how to use it in and out. But also because of the similarity it will now offer to users coming from the iPad to the macOS. Adding the same new windowing manager to both platforms at the same time is clearly Apple signaling that they want people to feel comfortable using either the Mac or the iPad and going back and forth between them. And that is a feature that I am really excited for. The second new macOS feature that I'm really excited for are the improvements coming to Spotlight. I do not use Spotlight. And that is because I am an Alfred user. Alfred is another app launcher slash, everything else you want to do on your computer launcher. The new macOS Ventura Spotlight comes really close to replacing all the features that I use Alfred for. Not quite all the way there, I don't think, but I may give it a shot. You see, now coming later this fall, we will get rich previews in Spotlight for media content. We'll also get more search locations such as Apple Photos, which is going to be pretty cool. But now, instead of just launching applications or starting Google searches, we can now take actions. You can start timers, you can start shortcuts, you can even create a new document. And these are the sorts of things that I've been using quick launches for, like Alfred, for years. Now, it's still not as powerful as a third-party alternative like Alfred, but it is coming really, really close, and I'm great to see it being built in. The final major feature that I'm really looking forward to helping me be more productive this year is Continuity Camera, which is just awesome. Starting later this year, we will be able to use our iPhones as the webcam for a Mac. And this is great because the iPhones have absolutely spectacular cameras. And as I talked about a couple of weeks ago, Apple webcams are not spectacularly great. In fact, they're spectacularly terrible, especially when compared to the great cameras that they add to these devices. But that doesn't really matter because this fall we will be able to use these great devices as our web camera. And we'll also get all the cool features built into the iPhone cameras, such as center stage and portrait mode, as well as the studio lighting effect. But it doesn't end there. Apple has done something that is incredibly cool, something that makes me giddy thinking about it, and I really, really hope it works as well in practice as it did in the demo. You see, modern iPhones have at least two cameras. There is the regular camera, but then there is also a wide camera. And with the new Continuity Camera, Apple allows you to use both of these at the same time for different purposes. The first of these, the regular lens, is just facing directly at you, capturing your lovely profile. But the second of these, the wide-angle camera, is used for a feature called Desk View. And this is just wild, and I really hope it works in practice. macOS and the iPhone will optionally use that wide-angle lens to capture a view of your desk. It will use a whole bunch of computational imagery to fix the distortion, and will simulate a top-down camera, which I have needed from time to time over the past couple of years. Now, I don't have any of the betas installed as I just got back from New York City, but this is something that I'm really looking forward to testing out when I get to the point of trusting the macOS beta for my main running machine. Now, this feature will be automatically usable by all the normal web conferencing software such as Zoom or Skype or whatever. In addition to this, they announced that Belkin is releasing a couple of really cool clips that you can attach to your studio display or to your laptop to keep your iPhone right there centered so you don't need to worry about holding it up or anything like that. Everything that I've talked about so far are the productivity-related features that are coming later this year that I'm really excited for. This video at this point is getting quite long, and so I need to bring it to a close. But before that, there are a couple of things I want to touch on that I'm excited for personally. The first of these is iCloud shared photo libraries. Apple has finally realized that people have families, and those families tend to want to share their photos with one another. This means that Yolanda and I will finally be able to share a single photo library, and hopefully all will be right with the world. Support is built into this everywhere, even down to the camera app, meaning that as you take a picture, you can choose if you want to send that to the shared family library or a personal library. I'm really excited for this. It will simplify so many of my personal photo workflows. In addition to this, there are some more health features coming to Apple Watch that I'm excited for, such as better sleep tracking as well as running form metrics and the like. And finally, of course, there is that new 13-inch MacBook Air that Apple announced. I'm not going to talk about that anymore today, but that is a computer that I am extremely excited for. I've always loved Apple's small laptops, and that 2nd gen 11-inch MacBook Air was my favorite laptop Apple has ever made. And it looks like we are finally getting close to it once again. I'm sure I will be talking about that in a future video. Be sure to stick around if you want to get my thoughts on all these new features and how I'm putting them to use after I install the betas throughout the summer, as well as next week when I will be talking about the backpack that I used to carry around my laptop, camera, and a bunch of other stuff all around New York City last week. Hope to see you then. Bye. 1 second. It's mail day. All sorts of cool things. I'll open those later. And these have been pretty well used, and let's get rid of and these have been pretty well used. No, let's cut that out. I don't want to include that.